Hey guys, how's everyone doing? Welcome back to Harry's Highlights. On this video, we're going to talk about the book Tools of Titans. Now, this is all about understanding tactics, routines, and habits of world-class performers. So, what I want to talk about is understanding some of the things that they do and some of the things that we can implement ourselves. See, with these world-class performers, these tools of these titans, some of the things they do is they create rules and uncommon habits. Plenty of people have habits. Plenty of people have a routine, the way they do things. They wake up, and then from the time they wake up to the time they go to sleep, their whole day, their whole night is full of habits. Things that they do, positive and negative. With world-class performers, they have a lot of uncommon positive habits. Habits and routines that set themselves apart from others. They do this because that is what makes them world-class. By separating them from the masses is the rules that they create, the habits that they have designed, and the way that they've implemented them. They have certain ways of doing things. They ask bigger and better questions because bigger and better questions demand bigger and better answers. When you look at something and you go, it'll take 10 years to do it, and it's like, why can't it be done in 6 months? And it's like, well, that's bold to ask now, isn't it? But understanding a bigger and better question like that, instead of just accepting the status quo or accepting something for what it is, forces a bigger and better answer. Like, by not asking it, there'd be no challenge, there'd be no growth. And as you understand, or as you would have heard, all growth happens from some sort of uncomfortableness. Sometimes that uncomfortableness might be change, environment, it might be a challenge like this, it's a lot to ask. Somebody goes like, if something's going to they say this will take 10 years, to then challenge them and say, why can't it be done in 6 months? And have an answer other than, it just can't. Having a substantial reason, a logical, objectional explanation to why it can't be done in a short amount of time, other than it just can't, is the reason why world-class performers break boundaries, push the ceiling, and basically push the limits on anything and everything they do. Having those rules and uncommon habits is part of their process to achieving more. See, they convert weaknesses into competitive advantages. So not just turning weaknesses into strengths, but turning it into a competitive advantage. Much the way that a lot of animals in the world have adapted to their environment to give them a competitive advantage. They've basically done the same thing. In their environment, they've taken things that they would normally find weak, or that are normally like a hindrance to them, and turned it into a strength, and then built on it again to become a competitive advantage. That next level of thinking, that bigger and better answer to understanding, like, why is this weak? How can I make it better? And then how can I make it better that it puts me at an advantage in comparison to others? That's how you get to that level of titan, get to that level of world class. How you push the status quo and push the results that one can achieve. See, other things they do, they look at things like there's three sort of steps that they look into things, or fundamentals. And it starts with I can think. And it's about having good rules for decision making. Part of their rules and uncommon habits is they don't just accept things. So one of it is that when they make a decision, they have created good rules for making those decisions. It's not based on emotion. They create a criteria and they follow that criteria. Before they make that decision, they look at that criteria and they say, is it objectional? Is it logical? Does it serve this purpose? Nowhere in there does it say anything like, does it make me feel good? Does it make me happy? They don't ever consult their feelings when making a decision. Because there's a great saying that feelings are fantastic indicators. They are absolutely horrible dictators. So a lot of people are dictated by their feelings, and that is why they achieve the levels that they achieve, which can sometimes be less than average, not much. It's very few times that based on your feelings, you achieve a lot. Because if you only went to work on the days you felt good, you probably wouldn't get much done. If you only put effort in on the days you felt good, you probably wouldn't get much done. If you take the gym, for example, there's a great saying to have in the gym. One of those things is that the day that you don't feel like going is the day you have to go. On the days that you feel like going, it's like, yep, great, you'll be there. But the days that you don't feel like going, when you train yourself to, this means I have to go, this means I probably should train harder. That trigger for that habit and that mindset and mentality is the reason why people get fit, stay fit, and push the limits. Because having a trigger of like doing the opposite of what you want is where growth happens. Remember I was talking about that for any sort of change, it normally comes from uncomfortability. The reason why, like, that turtle that tries to hatch, it's uncomfortable. It's too tight. So it breaks the shell, climbs out of the sand, and then makes its way to freedom. The reason why a butterfly breaks its cocoon is because it's grown to a point where it's too big for that now. It's never ready to hatch and emerge. The reason why an animal sheds its skin is because it's got to the point where it's outgrown it. The reason why crustaceans, crabs, and other shell-living creatures, why they break their shell and shed it is because they've outgrown it. Why a hermit crab changes its shell that it lives in is because it's outgrown it. It's the same thing with people. When you get to a point in a job, other things in life, when you've outgrown it, you change. And it's the same thing here. When you look at something and go like, well, I don't want to do that. Okay, that's my trigger. I need to do it. That is how you train yourself to have an uncommon habit and start achieving more. When you have that rule for good decision making, that it's not based on feeling, it's based on pure objection and logic. Feelings can come in afterwards and then base it if you feel good about the decision or bad about the decision. But the basis, the criteria, the fundamentals rule for that decision is looking at it objectively and logically. And when you make it that way and understanding that, like what I talked about there, about how feelings are fantastic indicators. They indicate what you feel about the situation, but using them to dictate what decision to be made on the decision is terrible. Purely because if I use a lot of those examples, but how often is it when we were kids, I don't want to go to school because I just don't feel like it. I don't want to go into work and make money because I don't feel like it. If we did everything based on that, how little progress the humankind would make. Second one there is that I can wait. Being able to plan long term. Basically delayed gratification. Looking at things and going even though it's nice to have things now, understanding what are the benefits of if I wait. Understanding what are the benefits if I plan long term and think of I'll hold off on that and work on this and then I can achieve that later. A simpler version of it is that why you don't have your dessert first. You eat the food and stuff you need to do first, then you enjoy the luxury second. First things first, second things if you have time. That I can wait mentality is why Titans and people in that world-class level and category achieve more, is because they do what needs to be done first and they do what they want to do second. Some people might say, well, that's a very boring life. Maybe in the beginning, again, looking at things long term, because they had the discipline to do the things that needed to be done first, and then secondly, doing the things they wanted to do, after a period of time, it changed to the point where they then had the option and the ability to do what they wanted to do first, because they've already put in that sacrifice already. They have the wealth of time. And they no longer have to go into work because they've already done it. They do things based on what they want and what they feel now because they put in those hours, paid their due diligence, and followed that rule of I can wait. Planned long term, and then were able to enjoy their dessert all day, every day. The third fundamental they talk about there is I can fast. Now, fasting, if anyone who's ever done it, can be quite difficult. There's a period of time where it's you're hungry, then you get agitated, then it might be the third day where you just feel completely depleted. Then, normally for most people, after the third day, you get this huge burst of energy. It comes flooding in and all of a sudden you feel I think I could run a marathon. I could probably do it twice. You just get this unbelievable surge of energy there and you suddenly feel like you can do anything. That you realize you don't have this reliance on food that you needed. And why this third fundamental with Tools of Titans is about I can fast. It's about being able to withstand difficulties, training yourself to be unconditionally resilient. Because those first 3 days is extremely difficult. You feel like nothing but hunger and pain and agitation and feeling robbed of something that you've been so used to. But when you follow the I can fast fundamental, you then train yourself that whenever something difficult comes, you have the resilience to easily breeze through it. After you've fasted once, twice, 3 times, you're so prepared for those first 3 days that it's no longer this amplified feeling of agitation and anger. You go through that and you know that on the third day, because you've got the I can wait fundamental number 2, you then understand that third day I'll get this flood of energy and it'll be so worth it. Looking at it in other ways, you put in all that time and effort, you put all the time and effort now and you worked really hard and later on you've got nothing but dessert. you've got nothing but that flood of energy. You've got nothing but time and the ability to enjoy things. The people that don't fast, that don't follow that third fundamental, they get to a certain point, they feel agitated, bam, they need to eat. They try to fast, they give in, bam, they never get the results. They never get that, they never experience that flood of energy. The people that don't follow that, I'll work hard now so I can enjoy life later, don't get that feeling of early retirement and that feeling of, while I'm still young, I've got all this wealth of time. See, there's a great saying that the world is changed by example, not by your opinion. So a lot of people might see things and go like, well, that's, I think that's wrong, or that's too extreme. But look at their example. Look at what their achievements are, look at what their results are, and then look at the example of titans, of people in that world-class level or category. Regardless of their opinion, the example that they've presented or shown is that the facts are undeniable. Their results are undeniable of what they've achieved. And it's because they follow these 3 rules. So the person there that has their opinion of that, like that's extreme or unnecessary, what's their example? It's not about their opinion. See, you got to understand and look at things in this way. The tool, Titans look at it with this tool. They basically say, life is always happening for us, not to us. And it's our job to find out why. So when you're in a situation you feel like, this is so unfair, how did this happen to me? Look at it in another way. Look at it, why is it happening for me? Why have I been put in this situation? And that's not because of a higher power or anything like that. It's just about understanding things in a positive manner and understanding how can I overcome this instead and be the victor, not the victim. So to summarize quickly everything I talked about here, I talked about understanding Tools of Titans is about tactics, routines, and the habits of world-class performers. It's about understanding how they create rules and uncommon habits that a lot of people don't follow, but they have results that a lot of people will never have. They ask bigger and better questions that demanded bigger and better answers. And because of that, they achieved more, a lot more, than a lot of others would ever achieve. They converted weaknesses into competitive advantages. They took it, not only turned it into a strength, but into a competitive advantage. They kept pushing further. They followed the 3 fundamentals of I can. I can think, having good rules for decision making. I can wait, being able to plan things long term, having delayed gratification. I can fast, being able to withstand difficulties and train yourself to have unconditional resilience. Then I explained there that understanding that the world is changed by your example, not by your opinion. It doesn't matter what you say or think about the situation. What are your results? What proof, tangible proof do you have to back up what you're saying? That is what should be followed, and that's what should be focused on. And then lastly was understanding that life is always happening for us, not to us. And it's our job to find out why. When you follow that purpose in life, you'll understand all the potential that you truly have and all the things that you can achieve and how you can reach a level that some might say is a titan. Now, we'll be making a lot more of these videos in this training series to help you with your personal development goals. But that's all for now. So until next time, leave a comment below on what you like the most, and I look forward to sharing more with you in the next episode of Harry's Highlights.